Matt, thank you so much for joining us at Junior Achievement here today. We're very excited to have you on, and you are a skills and development coach for like the welding and apprenticeship program at Urban Shipbuilding, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Thank you for taking time out of your busy day. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your role and what you do as your role as a skills and development coach? I'm very interested to hear about this.
Sure. Well, it's actually a relatively new role here at the shipyard. Really, our apprenticeship program, the last year, maybe 1 to 2 years, really under development itself. The skills coach role just came in just about a year ago. We have one for all of the trades at the shipyard. Essentially, what that is I'm a red seal welder by trade, and my role here as skills coach is I basically support all of our apprentice welders throughout their entire journey to getting the red seal. So I'm involved with recruitment activities, their onboarding when they first, apprentices first come in here, academic support. We do training exercises, on the job assistance, hands-on training, that sort of thing. We're involved with, like I said, outreach, recruitment, like I mentioned. So it's a quite a wide range of duties, but essentially we're just there to support the apprentice throughout their whole journey to getting their red seal.
That's great. I'm going to step in, Matt, just to give the students on the call. So we have touched a little bit about apprenticeship opportunities with our former mentors, and we touched a little bit about Red Seal, but can you speak to what that actually means and what that entails in terms of your specific skilled trade for welding?
Sure. So your like Red Seal, that's your professional designation per trade, like for your trade. So essentially, all the Red Seal trades, you would do an apprenticeship, which is a combination of on-the-job learning and then going back to school to do what they call your level training or your block training. And you go back and forth between school and work and keep upgrading your levels until you get to the end, and that's when you go for you do your Red Seal exam and go for that certification. The Red Seal is a interprovincial certification, so it means that it's recognized all across the country. That's really the beauty of it, is that it can take you anywhere, and you never know where you'll end up. So it's real benefit. As far as the welding goes, really what's involved in that, a typical sort of journey. Someone that took let's say they finished high school, they take a 2-year program at an NSCC welding diploma. You would be recognized, I believe you're a level 2 apprentice, meaning you would essentially go to work for about a year to 2 years, gain those hours, and then around 5,400 hours, you would go back to school for your level 3, and then you pass the level 3 exam, and then you go for your Red Seal. And for welders, it's a little different than most other trades. Welders actually have a practical examination as well as a written examination. So there's a series of welding tests, hands-on welding tests that they'll spend almost a full day in a weld training center doing those tests, all different types of welding equipment. And they got to meet a certain standard. And then upon passing that, you would do the written exam.
Great. Thank you so much for your insight on that. We've done a couple of these junior achievement events over the past few years. We've been doing this virtual for, I think, about 2-3 years now. And we've had a few people from Urban Shipbuilding present to the students. I'm wondering what the work environment is, and what's your work environment, and what's the work environment at Urban Shipbuilding is. There's a lot of opportunities, especially in Nova Scotia with the company.
Sure. Well, we're a growing company, that's for sure. Just this quarter alone, we were looking to fire 400 tradespeople, and like I said, and it's continuing to grow. I think right now we have over 1,000 tradespeople here, another probably 1,000 to 1,500 supporting staff roles, whether that's in supervision, management, engineering, planning, safety, all that stuff. So and continuing to grow. We're as far as kind of what we're working on, what we do here, at the moment we have basically 2 projects on the go, and so we have a ship repair facility, and that's a continuous part of our business. Currently, we usually have one, if not two, of the Halifax class frigates, which are approximately around 30 years old now. So they're they're overdue. Their life expectancy was probably up 5-10 years ago. And then our project that we're doing as well is the AOPS program. And that's what they call the Arctic Offshore Patrol Ships. And we're building 6 of those for the Navy and 2 for the Coast Guard. And we're up to ship 4 is in the water, and ship 5 and 6 are in various stages of construction. So, we're trying. Our ship repair facility is keeping our current Navy ships, keeping them, seaworthy, and then in the meantime, we're building new ships for the Navy. And then once we're done the 8 AOP ships, that's when the big project starts. And those are what they call the CSCs, the Canadian Surface Combatants. And these are the real warships. They're even going to be about 50 meters longer than the AOP ships. I believe the AOP ships are around 100 meters long. So the CSC is about 150 meters long. And we have the contract for up to about 15 of those. So we're looking at, it's a unique operation where we're looking at 30, 40, 50 years continuous work here. It's a real opportunity, not too many places where a tradesperson in Nova Scotia can come in and potentially do their whole career. So and as a tradesperson, as a welder, you're involved in almost all stages of construction. Even when the boat's in the water and they're still they're getting ready to make that delivery to the Navy. There's still things popping up, that were missed or things that need to be tweaked. So you're involved with everything.
That's amazing, Matt. And we're talking about the opportunities within Nova Scotia, like real actual opportunities for youth and planning their career. And that Canadian Navy contract that we got here in Halifax a number of years ago now, that was huge, right? Like, it was just incredible for the economy of Nova Scotia. Can you speak to how that, were you at Irving Shipbuilding prior to that, and how that changed sort of, the demand for tradespeople in those trades?
Sure. Well, I guess maybe what I'll kind of just describe my journey a little bit, how I kind of ended up here. So I didn't have a typical journey. I finished high school in 2007, and I ended up, I was a football player. I was looking at pursuing the university thing, and I ended up going down to Australia for a little bit and playing in the men's football league there, and sort of figuring out what I wanted to do. Then I ended up going to Bishop's University for 5 years. I'm a history major, and this was all before I even knew what welding was. And I went that route, and played football there, got my history degree. It was a great experience, and I certainly value that education. When I graduated, that was, and while I was in university, that's when things were really booming out west in the oil and gas sector, and that's where everybody was kind of flocking to at that time. And I had some friends of mine that did that and were doing quite well. But then that that's very much a boom and bust industry, right? When it's going, and then all of a sudden, unforeseen events in the world, and that really slows down. So that was still going strong when I was finishing university, and I went a few different directions, and nothing really kind of went the way I was hoping it was going to go. And that's when I decided to do a total career change. How I got into it was NSCC was actually offering a 7-week intro to stick welding course, just open to the public. So it was 2 nights a week during the summer, and I was working at Costco at the time. And so I was working early mornings there, and then I'd go over and figured, before I sign up for a 2-year program or something, why don't I go and see if I, even like this? And I didn't really know much about welding. So I went and did that, and I actually really, really enjoyed it. I picked it up pretty good, and I was able to get into the full-time program the following fall. And that was right around, so when I get into the program, that's right around the time where things really slowed down out west. And but luckily, that's when things really started picking up in Nova Scotia. So it really worked out for me that way. It was kind of the right place at the right time. I finished NSCC. I got hired on at the shipyard as an apprentice. I did my whole apprenticeship here. Got my red seal in 2019, and then I continued to work on the tools for a few more years, and then eventually I applied and was promoted to the staff role, where now I sort of mentor and support all the apprentice welders.
That's a great journey. I love seeing or showcasing to students the ability to move and grow and progress through your career, change your decision, change your mind. And we've been talking about transferable skills, and I'm going to ask Brett too. We're going to guess what your most highly used transferable skill in your role would be, and I'm going to guess leadership. Brett, what do you think?
I would have guessed the exact same thing, along with communication.
Yeah, I would agree with that myself completely. I certainly, I think if there's maybe a theme to my story, it's your experiences, it doesn't matter what they are, if they don't maybe seem like they directly align with whatever role you're going towards. Your experiences matter, and they make you who you are. And whether it was for me, my role as a welder here, very, very much, you're on a team, you're on a crew, but a large part of your day is very much working alone. You have something to weld, and you're working away at it, and you're very much kind of in your own zone. But that being said, I was a football player, football coach for a while. I coached at Dalhousie University, and when I got into the staff role, well, now I'm overseeing over 60 welders. That leadership ability certainly helped me there, just like I did with my football players. The skills I gained with my degree, a lot of sort of analytical, my writing skills, that those transferred greatly into this role. It's quite a role where I said I could be doing some hands-on work with the apprentice on the shop floor one moment, and I get a call that the Minister of Defense is coming for a tour, and they want to talk to the apprenticeship program, and I got to run upstairs and put on a clean shirt and go get to the boardroom. So, like I said, all these skills certainly contribute to what I'm doing today, and so I think that's a good point to make. Is don't your life experiences will always play a role in what you're doing.
That's a great piece of advice. I'm going to invite students and teachers to ask Matt some questions. We have another minute or so through the chat. Brett, is there anything that we've missed that you think we should ask Matt?
I think a good thing, and we've heard fellow people at Irving Shipbuilding talk about this and how it's really great there. But can you talk a little bit about your work-life balance?
Sure. So we are a typical sort of 40 Monday to Friday, 40 hours per week, sort of operation. We have multiple shifts. We operate around the clock, though. We have a day shift. We have what they call a night shift, which is currently 5 p.m. till 1 a.m. And then we have that traditional back shift, which is midnight to 7:30 a.m. So you, as an employee, you can, a trades employee, you can request to be on any one of those particular shifts. So in that sense, there is a lot of opportunity for that kind of work-life balance. There's depending on, there's people that would think, midnight to 7:30 a.m. I would never want to do that, but for some people that's ideal depending on their situation or working night shift. We have people that, for childcare reasons, maybe one parent works, during the day, the other one works the night shift, and someone's always home. And so a lot of opportunity there. It's, overtime is not, we do have overtime here, but it's voluntary. Like you have to put in it's a unionized environment. So if you do want to work overtime and there's overtime being offered, everybody, you put in a volunteer form, and it goes by seniority. And if you're selected, you get those shifts, but there's no forced overtime. You can pretty much count on always having your weekends off if you want. And if you want to, volunteer to work, you can do that as well.
Thank you so much for your insight on the matter. We got a few questions from the chat. The first one being is, what are the hourly wages for welders at different levels?
Sure. So our apprentices, and again, this is across all the trades here, are depending on what level you're at, our apprentices are between I think if you come in, the lowest level is 29 an hour, and a top level apprentice is around 37 per hour. Then our Red Seal rate right now is 43 per hour, and then there's actually premiums if you work on night shift or back shift, as well as a different skill premium. So if you take in certain training courses here, there's actually premiums added on to your wage as well. So there's a lot of people, a lot of tradespersons here that are making close to $50 an hour, and that's something that is very attainable within within maybe 4 years of leaving high school. If you were to go right into an NSCC and come to the shipyard and work for a couple of years through your apprenticeship, within 3 to 5 years of you're already hitting that rate. So it's very achievable.
That's amazing. We have another question. What other trades are involved in shipbuilding?
Sure. So we have millwrights, pipe fitters, electrical. I mean, honestly, pretty much most of the trades. Metal fabrication. Those are the big ones here. We have. I'm trying to think. When we get into the CSC project, I think there's going to be a more demand for like plumbers as well. And then we also have a lot of subcontractors that they pretty much work in here full time, even though they're not Irving employees, but to be other companies that we bring in here. Like we have a company that does a lot of our, like on the ship, a lot of the, sort of the carpentry and the finishing work. So they're called Gabati, and it's a company that they do a lot of more or less carpentry work, fine finishing work. So once we go in and the ship's all steel and we go weld it together and the pipes are in, the electrical systems are in, and it's time to put the nice walls, to hide all those wires in behind. That's the type of company they bring in. So there's a lot of sort of indirect trades as well that are all in the shipyard.
That's great, Matt. I'm going to give you one more question, just to speak to for the students. And one of our mentors earlier was a young female carpentry assistant. Can you speak to how? And I'm pretty sure Irving Shipbuilding has a lot of initiatives to bring females into trade and support them in the workplace. Can you speak a little bit about how that dynamic is changing in terms of the demographic of the workforce?
Sure. So I don't know the stat offhand, but our as far as like our female trades workers, we are well above the national average. And I want to say it's even like triple or quadruple the national average. There's programs out there. I mean, we recruit everybody. There's no discrimination that way. And in fact, in particular, in my trade, welding, women typically make very good welders. I don't know what it is. It's attention to detail or just something like dexterity stuff. But welding is very. It's quite a craft, and some of the best welders I've come across are women. But of course, we have them across all trades. Everybody's welcome. There's programs out there that we support. One called Women's Unlimited. And like I said, I don't have all the details offhand on that, but I do know that's a program that supports getting more women in the trades. And I believe there's a lot of like financial incentives, and they'll support you through school and stuff. And we partner with them, and as well as a Pathways program, which I believe they deal with like African Nova Scotians and other underrepresented groups, getting them supporting them through school and getting them involved in the trade. At the moment, we have just on Friday we took on 50 to 60 NSC students doing their 5-week work term, and so they'll be here at the shipyard, supervised by us, and then there's a good, very large possibility that a lot of them will be offered employment with us when they're done their work term.
Super, that's fantastic. Thank you so much, Matt.
Oh, my pleasure.
Okay, we'll see you soon.
Thank you so much.